There are hundreds of different builds that you can make in Elden Ring, and one of those is a torch build. So today, we're going to be figuring out if you can beat Elden Ring with just a torch. So we started off with the Confessor class, and afterwards I wanted to make sure that my character looked exactly like a torch and was as bright as possible. So we came up with this absolute perfect specimen. From there, I gave the Grafted Scion a break, and I didn't really want to beat him up too bad, so I decided to jump off the cliff because I didn't have my torch yet. After that, I decided to take my fiery good looks out into the real world, and I made my way over to this merchant so I could buy a torch. Immediately, I wanted to try out the damage of the torch to see exactly how good it was. As you can see here, it did about 78 a hit right off the bat. Overall, not too bad, and the damage was not terrible, but I knew that there was something missing. And so on this next guy, we decided to get completely naked and show him exactly how bright we were, and the damage was immediately increased. I soon realized, however, that I was too bright because a mob had formed outside of this site of grace. After that, I decided it was a great time to fight Margit. However, he proved to be a little bit difficult for me, and that's when I realized I might have needed to level up a little bit and get my shit together. So from there, I decided to put on a little bit of clothing this time so that I could have a little bit more damage resistance, as well as upgrade my torch a little bit, and even upgrade my level by farming a little bit. From there, it was the perfect time to fight Margit. Overall, this boss was not too difficult. Typically, for some reason, I do struggle with Margit overall. I think it's because it's a beginner boss, and overall, his attacks are so slow that I'm just waiting for him to wind up forever, and I end up dodging prematurely and getting hit by a lot of his attacks. Regardless though, we did pretty decent damage to him, and overall, as you can see here right at the end, he tries to go for this last ditch effort with a jump attack, and I hit him twice, strike him down pretty easily, and overall, not too hard of a boss, especially because I have a torch. From there, we decided to upgrade our torch a little bit and get the steel wire torch because it did a little bit of extra damage. And unfortunately, I ran into Steve Harvey, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had actually killed him. I felt pretty bad about that, but regardless, we made our way over to get the Flame Grant Me Strength incantation, and I dodged all of the fire attacks and made my way on over to Godric the Grafted. This boss fight was actually not that hard. I think I actually ended up taking him out in one try. With the necessary upgrades that I had gotten, the amount of damage I was doing was pretty solid, and overall the extra damage from the new torch proved to be just what I needed for the kill on this boss. As you can see here, I snuck in past his attacks and ended up hitting him a few times, and that's when he started to transition into the next phase. After that, I wailed on him, hit him with the absolute awful combos of the torch, and we moved into the next phase. From there, dodging his attacks pretty easily and hitting him just a few times. Overall, like I said, this boss fight was not difficult. Dude's pretty much a chump, and after he tries to do this last slam attack, I'm not entirely sure why he did that. We ended up just smacking him a few more times and taking him out very, very easily. And he was trying to talk to me at the end, and I didn't really understand, but I did hear him say that he was going to return, and I'm not entirely sure what that meant, but I quickly realized what he meant when I saw his head right here, and he actually had returned, but he was getting stepped on, which was very unfortunate. From there, me and my eyeballs decided to make our way into this dungeon to see what was going on, and we actually ran into this guy who was begging me to grab his grapes, and I thought that was a little bit strange, but I took them regardless and made my way to Liurnia of the Lakes. From there, I decided to get a necessary upgrade, which was a Great Rune. I ended up getting the Godric Great Rune, which boosts all stats by +5, and after that, I took advantage of some iframes and decided it was a perfect time to fight Red Wolf of Radagon. Now, for some reason, I had gotten this boss 1 HP multiple times, and I wasn't entirely sure why this boss fight was giving me so much trouble, but then it dawned on me. It was something that I hadn't realized, and something that I actually had not run into before. It was the fact that Red Wolf of Radagon is actually solar powered, and I didn't understand that at the time, but it was because of my radiating skin, and the fact that I am essentially a power source with how much energy I am producing. He was actually able to get so much stronger, and that's when I realized I needed to put on a little bit of clothes. I needed to make sure that he wasn't in direct contact with his energy, and after I did that, it was pretty easy. He was pretty much a pushover boss, so essentially throwing on some clothes made that boss fight a cakewalk. From there, I got absolutely disrespected in the worst way possible by the Carrion Knight. Overall, this was absolutely unacceptable, so I knew I had to pay him back, and the way I did that was by lighting him on fire. From there, we made our way over to the Renala fight. Overall, this fight was not too bad. I got to go Anakin Skywalker on some weird kids, and the first phase of the fight, very, very easy. As you can see here, the damage by the torch is actually a little bit overwhelming. The speed at which the attacks are coming out, absolutely incredible. The kids continued to throw books at me for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. You'd think after they saw the torch, they would have been a little bit intimidated, or even by my skin and my looks that they would have been intimidated, but they weren't. I got Ronaldo to fall down again, and it ended up taking her out with just a quick combo. Not too bad. Then we made our way to the second half of the fight, and the second half of the fight is where I realized that jump attacks were going to be very, very useful throughout this build. Overall, the range of the torch is pretty awful, and getting the combos off a lot of the times was not exactly realistic, so getting a nice little burst of jump attack damage was exactly what I needed. So in this fight, I was hitting her with a lot of jump attacks, as you can see here. A lot of times I was able to get the perfect opening for a nice little jump attack until she spawned a dragon, and it scared the hell out of me. From there, I actually gotten her pretty low at this point and dodged her last couple attacks. And I actually wanted her to make it seem like it was a close fight, so I let her take me down to 1 HP. I was in control the entire time, and overall it was not even a close fight. Pretty easy boss fight, especially for me. From there, I decided I was going to be going with the jump attack, so I got the Raptor's Black Feather set. After that, I decided to make my way on over to the boss fight of this dungeon, and I couldn't find him, and that's when I realized that he was invisible, and he had assassinated me. From there, I decided I needed another talisman, and this talisman that I was going to get was the Fire Scorpion Charm. And I'm not entirely sure why I did this, but I picked the absolute worst possible way that you can get into this place. I literally scaled a rock for some reason, and I don't even know why. Regardless, I jumped on this rock and grabbed the Fire Scorpion Charm. From there, I listened to the best speech of all time, and while I was hyped up, I decided it was a perfect time to fight Mr. Radahn. Overall, this fight was not difficult. I did summon in for it, so if you guys are going to hate me for it, just comment below that you hate me a lot. I'll understand why. As you can see here, the damage with the torch is absolutely insane. And right here, me and my boys, we jumped him. I mean, it was not even okay what we did to this man. We just all started beating this dude up at the same time, and it was one of the most incredible things. I mean, this was payback for, you know, millions of players struggling on this boss. We beat the hell out of this dude. And quickly, he realized he was in a lot of danger, and he decided to jump away, which was honestly the right choice. But for some reason, and I will never understand why he did this, but he came back. And as soon as he came back, the ass whooping resumed. And this man went down very, very easily. Last little jump attack took him out. Not hard at all. After the fight, I decided to talk to some short dude, and he told me about some falling stars, which I didn't really understand. And we made our way over to the Draconic Tree Sentinel. This guy was a total pushover. Honestly, I was expecting more. He got staggered by a torch. I don't even know how that's possible. He's like this big armored lightning guy. And I ended up finishing him off here by staggering him with my torch again. I mean, it's quite literally a stick. This guy has probably, you know, 300 pounds of armor on, and I'm just hitting him with a stick and he's falling over. Regardless, total pushover. We made our way over to Godfrey. This guy's an annoying fight. Honestly, he's one of my least favorite fights in this entire game. At this point, I had also just changed to the Sentry Torch, which did holy damage instead of fire damage. Looking back on it, that was a pretty terrible idea because this guy is literally golden, so one can only assume that he is probably very resistant to holy damage. But regardless, we ended up taking him out. Overall, not too difficult of a fight, but like I said in the past, more tedious than anything. He just takes a long time to kill. After that, we made our way to Morgott, the Omen King, and honestly, I'm not entirely sold that he's a king because Morgott's a girl's name, and I think when I said that, he had gotten a little bit angry, so he was beating me up a little bit. But regardless, I ended up taking him out. Not too hard of a boss fight. The same thing as Morgott in the beginning. Just with a little bit more moves. Overall, these types of bosses, for some reason, these two, Morgott and Morgott, I have a hard time with them. But regardless, I was able to take them out pretty easily just with my jump attacks and the actual decent damage of the torch. So right here, we finish him off. Last jump attack, and he is out of here. And we decided to go get his Great Rune. Morgott's Great Rune, which is a nice boost to health, which is something we needed. Afterwards, I fought a Rivers of Blood spammer, and I was actually able to kill him because two of his friends weren't here to help him out. And then I made my way over to the Fire Giant and tried to beat him. So I was actually able to beat the Fire Giant on my first try. As you can see, the damage is pretty decent in the first half of this fight. When I was beating up his little gimpy leg, it was pretty solid. However, that was quickly not the case in the second half. As you can see here, once I hit his leg this last time and we move into the second phase, the damage was just a giant fall off, and he got really angry at a tree. I'm not entirely sure why, but he broke the tree and then literally tripped and fell flat on his face. And I knew that this was the perfect time to strike, and so that's exactly what I did. He tried to hit me with the people's elbow, so I stabbed him in the eye with my torch a couple times, and I got him literally 1 HP, and in a last-ditch effort to take me out, he threw this feeble attack at me where he just, you know, spewed some flames, but that didn't matter because I slammed him on the hand with my torch, and he died. From there, Melina asked to hold my hand, and I advised against it, and as soon as she did, she spontaneously combusted, and after that, it was time to take on the Godskin duo in Crumbling Farm Azula. This boss fight was overall not too bad. I did cheat a little bit though, so you can grill me in the comments if you'd like. I used some sleep pots just to put the fat dude to sleep. Like I said, he's just so annoying, and dealing with two of them at the same time is incredibly annoying. So I just choose not to. And I could have used the sleep torch, but honestly I didn't want to go get it. So I just put him to sleep with some sleep pots. I absolutely beat this dude when he was asleep too. I hit him with a combo so crazy it did over 4,000 damage. 4,370. You saw that number right. Absolutely insane. We finished off the tubster right here. He was sleeping on the job again. I ended up beating him down. It was just me and Skinny left. I ended up killing him, and it was me and this dude again. He wanted more for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. I got him alone, and I was getting his health a little low. He realized he needed some backup. He really tried to call for reinforcements right in front of me, and I ended up taking these bosses out, which was incredibly easy, and from there I realized that I was actually doing it all wrong this entire time. I was not bright enough. So after I got the Ghost Flame Torch, I had realized that I needed to change and become even brighter. As you can see here by my orange skin, I quickly realized that this was the way to go, and I became the brightest thing in the entire Elden Ring universe. I was so bright that I was literally just a silhouette. I quite literally looked like I was just pure energy at this point. And that's when I had realized that my power levels were clearly over 9,000, and the amount of damage that I was about to do was so incredible that no one could ever have seen it coming. So I moved on to Commander Nile, and as soon as he took a look at me, he literally went down on one knee right here, and he just could not move anymore. It gave me the perfect amount of time to just smack him a little bit. From there, we moved on to phase 2 of the fight and started doing his classic 1-2 combo. He literally only has 2 moves, and I'm not entirely sure why they designed this boss like that, but he's incredibly easy. So his last ditch attempt to kill me, he jumps at me and actually ends up hitting me with an ability. I was surprised by it, but we hit him one more time, hit him with the frost effect, and he goes down like a bag of bricks. From there, I wanted to get a little bit more powerful, so I wanted a new talisman. I dropped down on these roach people, and as soon as they took one look at me, the roach from Men in Black went flying off the side, and he immediately abandoned ship. So we killed his little cronies and opened up the chest to grab our next talisman, which was the Dragon Crest Great Shield talisman. From there, I made my way back to the round table so that I could beat up this chump a little bit and put him in his place. And after I defeated him, I had gotten completely naked to show him exactly how bright I was. After that, we made our way back to Crumbling Farm Azula so that we could take on Malekith the Black Blade. And overall, this boss fight was actually probably the boss fight that took me the most attempts for some reason. As I've said before about the range of the torch, it's absolutely terrible. And for some reason, the Beast Clergyman part, the first half of the fight, was the most annoying part of the Malekith fight. This guy kept destroying me, and I wasn't entirely sure why, since I was literally the brightest thing in the universe. I wasn't even sure how he could make eye contact with me. But regardless, we had gotten that last little frost proc at the end, and made our way to the second half of the fight with Malekith. And overall, since he has these long drawn-out combos, if you just dodge them successfully, you can get a few attacks in. And for me, these were the jump attacks. And overall, he was just not that difficult. It was just the first half of the fight. So we took care of him and made it to the Ashen Capital. Then we made our way to Sir Gideon, and this guy was a total pushover. And honestly, he deserved what was about to be given to him from the last time that I fought him in the bow build, where he just dodged everything. He tried to dodge everything this time, but I just smacked the shit out of this dude time after time with my torch. And I mean, I got him to like 1 HP within like the first 10 seconds of the fight. It was absolutely incredible. He was trying to spam his little spells to try to take me out, but through a couple easy dodges and a nice little running attack, I was able to take him out and finish him off. From there, we went on to fight Mr. Horalu. I'm still not entirely sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but I got really good at dodging his attacks regardless. I mean, he doesn't really have that many attacks, he just has a stomp. He's essentially the same thing as that golden dude that I didn't like, except just he has another phase and a little bit more attacks. But overall, pretty simple. Just dodge his little stomp attack. And the damage we were doing was actually pretty incredible. I was able to hit him with the frost status effect and dodge a couple of his stomps, and I got him into the second phase of the fight just by hitting him a few more times. And as soon as we got into the second phase, he tried to charge at me, so I just kind of ran around him. He's pretty much Usually this boss gives me a lot of trouble because he's literally directly on top of you the entire time, which is incredibly annoying, especially when you're trying to kill him with something like a bow. But as I mentioned in the past with my previous problems, I need to be directly on top of somebody to hit him with this torch, so it actually proved to be his downfall. So I hit him right at the end with this nice little frost, and he died. From there, we moved on to the last boss, which is Radagon of the Golden Seal. Now, to this day, I'm pretty convinced that this is a girl. Someone told me that it was a guy, and I just simply don't believe it, because this is clearly a girl. I mean, look at the hair. That is not a guy's hair. And I know what you might be thinking, like, well, you know, his tits are out. That's really just not enough of... that's not enough evidence for me. So I'm just going to go with the fact that this is a girl, and I was able to hit her with a frost effect. And I was pretty surprised by that, because literally everyone has said that this boss is immune to status effect. But I literally just hit him with frost and ended up taking him out very, very easily. From there, I moved on to the Elden Beast. And the Elden Beast was a little bit of a different story, because he cannot be afflicted with status effect at all. I couldn't get a frost to proc, and overall my damage was pretty lackluster to him. However, one of the best things about this boss was the fact that his moves were overall pretty easy to dodge for the most part, and he was kind of a pushover, honestly, and a lot of his combos were super long and drawn out, much like Malekith. So as you can see here, I was able to get a lot of jump attacks and combos in after he would do these terrible attacks. A lot of the times he would do this flame attack as well, and if you just stood behind him, you can hit him. The damage wasn't terrible overall, but I definitely would have liked it to be better because this boss fight took forever. He tried to channel his inner Goku at the end, and I ended up dodging it and hitting him with a few more attacks, and I took care of the Elden Beast. And just like that, I had successfully beaten Elden Ring with just a torch. As you could see, the pure energy standing in front of you, the pure perfection, had beaten the game. And something you may not have realized was that I am actually incredibly hairy. I resemble a Yeti in some sorts, but you just never realized it because of how bright I was. And just like that, I had answered the question that absolutely nobody had ever asked. Can you beat Elden Ring with just a torch? Absolutely.